So in this video, we're going to be talking about fairness criteria. And the idea about fairness is that any election that we hold should be fair. I think everybody can agree on that. We're going to see different fairness criteria. And we're going to start with something called the Condorcet Criterion. But first, let's suppose that we have A, B, and C that are candidates for an election. And we've got a preference table that's already been added up and it's tallied there for us. We want to know who wins by plurality. Okay, so let's remember that plurality was first place votes. So let's look at A. We have 10 voters right here that wanted A. And we had 2 voters over here that had A as their first choice. So A gets 12 votes. Well, let's look at B. B is first right here for these 10 voters, so it gets 10 votes. And B is first right here for these 2 voters, so it gets 2. So right now those 2 are tied. Let's look at C. If we look at C in the first place row, these 2 columns have C as their first choice. So these 9 people and these 4 people. And that gives us 13. Now, let's notice something interesting though. If we look at A's votes, for example, let's notice there's only a difference in 1 vote between A and C. And if we were to compare A to C, these 10 people prefer A to C. These 10 people prefer A to C. Now these 9 people prefer C to A, and these 4 people prefer C to A, but then these 2 people prefer A to C. And then of course these 2 prefer C to A. And if we were to think about just the preferences here, and we were to do just A versus C without B being in the race, well, if we did just A versus C, A would have 10 votes. It would get these 10 because these people prefer A over C. C would get these votes because, of course, they do like C the best. C would get these votes because, again, they like C the best. But A, notice, would get these 2 right here. And here C is preferred over A, so it would get these 2. And if we were adding these 2 up in a head-to-head comparison to one another, in other words, which one do these 2 people, or do these people prefer more? Notice that A wins hands down in preferences. They prefer A over C. So this is the problem with plurality. C won the race up here, but in truth, A is preferred by the majority of people over C. All right, so this is our Condorcet criterion that this violates. If there is a choice that is preferred in every one-to-one comparison with the other choices, that choice should be the winner. We call this winner the Condorcet winner or the Condorcet candidate. Now, to be sure that A would win in a head-to-head with B, we would have to kind of do a head-to-head competition with A and B to see if it really should be a Condorcet winner for A. So let's do that and later on, next week, we'll be exploring this head-to-head idea more. All right, but let's see. If we just compare A with B and don't consider C, well, in this column, A is preferred, so A would get 10. In this column, B is preferred, so B would get 10. In this column, A is preferred, so A would get these 9. In this column, B is preferred, so B would get these 4. In this column, A is preferred, so A would get these 2. And then in this column, A is not preferred, B is, so B would get these 2. And if we added those preferences up, A would get 21 votes as opposed to 16 votes for B. Now notice in both of these comparisons, A won in a head-to-head competition with each of its 2 competitors, and yet A did not win a plurality election. And this is the problem with a plurality election. When we have more than two candidates, the votes get split. And it's not always the preferred person who wins the election. In this case, A is the preferred person, and they did not win the election. It violated the Condorcet Criterion.